Okay, welcome back. We're going to dive into the project for Access Chapter 1. I'm in my instructor area, which is going to look very similar to your downloads area for SAM. And just understand that your instruction file, I had some paper handouts, packets to be provided to you, because I know a lot of you like to print out your instructions and have them separate. So I am not going to split my screen. I'm going to be working from the printed instructions. I'll read them, obviously, as I go along. Also, I will have those instructions electronically in Google Classroom if you want to pull those up electronically and maybe have your access file on one half the screen and those on the other. But I think it'd be best if you had a paper version of my shared folder version of the instructions. So I've modified these a little bit. You can download these from SAM, but again, I think that you'll find my modified instructions may be a little more helpful in the long run than what you could download with the default instructions from SAM. For starters, I'm going to click on the file, my start file for Access Chapter 1 project. This is Personal Insurance Incorporated. All right. And I'm going to download that. And it drops down into of course, I'm in Chrome here. And I'm going to open that up. And Access is going to be a little bit different. I just kind of want to warn you. Some of you have had difficulty in saving files in the past. It's really important that you save your Access files correctly. And you'll find this Enable Content message pop up quite a bit. All right. So I'm going to click on Enable Content. And once again, I've opened this file up, but now that I've opened it, obviously it has an _1 on the end. I want to do a File and Save As. Now I'm going to pretend like I'm going to save this to my Documents folder like I would ask you to do if you were here at school. Obviously, you may not have a Documents folder at your home, but in the Save As, I want to save my database as. So if you were at school, this is what you would be doing. Save As. And I'd be specifying I'm saving this to my Documents folder with, again, I'm just going to click on the end and put a 2 on the end of that. What I find students doing here at school is either reopening the Access file every time they want to open it, or they want to save over the top of something they've downloaded. If you just save it with a 2 on the end, open that file up every time you're doing any new work, you'll be fine. If you ever have the _2 open and it's asking you to save over the top, you want to avoid that because Access will save your file. Key point here, Access will save your file as you go along. Yes, so when you exit, it won't ask you to save. So here we go, save. And I'll model that here as I go along. And again, there's that Enable Content button popping up there. And here we go with number 1. All right. So here in step 1, it says create a new table. And I changed this to design view because I think it asked you originally to save this in datasheet view, which to me is just a waste of time. All right. So I'm going to go to create and table design. And again, I'm on number 1 here of the instructions. Name the first field policy number. Let's spell that right. Okay. And that will be a short text. And it says make policy number the primary key. All right. And so I'm going to come up here and say primary key. Click on that, and you'll see the little key icon next to that. And notice down below here where it says indexed, yes, no duplicates. So in this case, because that's my primary key, policy number cannot be duplicated. Kind of like your 7-digit code here at school, 03 whatever, it cannot be duplicated. All right, next we have our field name next field name is customer ID, and that's short text. And it says change the field size of the customer ID field to 7. So I'm going to come down here to my field size and say 7. And next it says add a field with the name personal property with a field type of currency, which of course is money. All right. And it says save the table using renters as the name. So I'm going to come up here and click on save because it's a new object. Save. And I'm going to save this as renters. Save that as renters. Okay. Number 2, open the renters table in datasheet view. So I'm going to come up here and click on the little icon to switch from design view to datasheet view, where I'm actually entering in data. And down below there in table 1, I'm going to enter in R10223, customer ID 11004, and personal property 75,000. I'm going to hit tab. It creates a new record, which I don't really need. All right. And it says add the record in table 1, save and close the renters table. So I'm just going to enter in that one record there. And when I'm done, I'm going to close this field list over here. And I'm also going to close the renters table. And there you go. All right. So on to number 3. Create a new table in design view to store the clients as of personal insurance who own homes as follows. All right. So I'm creating a new table in design view. So create and table design. And it says add a new field called policy number. And again, you can pause my video, you can stop it, you can rewind it. If you want to go back and look at something that maybe I went too fast or you need to redo. I'm going to change policy number to an auto number field. Auto number means, again, it's going to automatically add 1 every time I add a new record. Okay? I'm going to make policy number my primary key. Again, yes, no duplicates, which means down here it means that that number cannot be duplicated. All right. And it says, that's it. Save the table with the name homeowners, but do not close it. All right. Hit my save button. I'm going to call this home owners. On to page 2 of my instructions. Okay. And continuing on with design view, it says add a second field, the name customer ID, and a short text. All right, short text. And let's see, save the table and then close it. So I'm going to hit the save icon up here and then close it. Boom. All right. Open the customers table. I'm on number 5 now. Open the customers table in design view. Right click on customers table. I'm just going to go right to design view. And it says change the name of the field named first. That'd be right here. This is number 5 again. To first name. And use last name to change the field last to last name. Whoops, let's spell it right. Let's type right. Okay, all right. First name and last name. With the customers table still open, I'm on to number 6 here in design view. Change the data type property for the customer ID field to short text. So right now that's showing as number. I'm going to change that to short text. Okay. Number 7, in design view, add a new field to the customers table after the postal code. That's down here. The field should be named date, capital O, F, capital BIRTH, date of birth, tab, and make that a date time field. All right. Save the customers table. I'm just going to hit the save icon up here, and it'll save over the top of the previous customers table name. Switch the customers table. I'm on to number 8 here to data sheet view. So again, switching between design view, which is again the framework of my file, clicking on datasheet view up here. Wow, I've got a lot of records here. Look at that. That's all kinds of stuff there. All right. Again, number 8. Navigate to the third record, which has a field ID of 1103, and delete the record. Heaven Barton. Do anybody named Heaven? Don't answer that question. And in datasheet view, if I want to select the entire record, I just go over here to the left in the row selector, which is that kind of that blank area over there. Click on your row selector area off to the left. It highlights that entire row. Then I hit delete, and it wipes it out. Boy, that's a really loud sound there. All right. So I just wiped out record 1103. With the customers table still open in datasheet view, navigate to the fifth record, which has customer ID field of 1106. That's down here. And change the value to Alberts for the last name field. That would be over here. Ann Rich must have gotten married. So I'm going to highlight her name Rich. And I'm just going to type right over the top of that and call that Alberts. She is now Ann Alberts. Okay. And you also need to view the individual customer records and use the form tool to create a form. Oh, it says close the customers table. Sorry about that. I missed that. Close the customers table. All right. And it says you also need to view individual customer records. Use the form tool to create a form for the customers table. So the customers table is created over here. And I'm going to say create form, just a simple form, all right? And it says save the form with the name customer data form. I'm going to go up here and click on save button up there. And I notice it's called customer data form. So I'm going to click on the end of that, hit backspace, and hit data and form. And OK. And it says verify it looks like the diagram down there in figure 1, which it does. So customer data form. All right. And I'm going to close that out. On to number 11. It says use the simple query wizard to create a query based on the umbrella table. So I'm going to go down. I'm just going to click once on umbrella. All right. And I'm going to say create and query wizard. And I'm just doing a simple query. Again, a query is a slice out of a data table. I'm either using not all of the fields or little bitty pieces of information, or I'm not selecting all of the records, or a combination of both. I'm just taking some sort of a slice out of my original table. So I'm doing a simple query wizard. And again, it's just going to hold my hand. It says includes all fields from the umbrella table in the query. That's going to be my 2 arrows over here. And next. And detail. I'm going to click next. It says name the query with the umbrella query as a default name, then close the query. Okay, I'm going to finish that. Take a look at my query. This one has, I guess that's kind of an exception because I included all of the fields and all of the records. So I really kind of made a copy of my original table, didn't I, in that query, which I think in future chapters we're actually going to take some slices out of that. They just contradicted what I said, though. Close that out there, little X. Close out umbrella query. I'm on to page 3, on to number 12. You need to refer to a printed copy of the umbrella table when assigning consultants to projects. Use the report wizard to create a report based on the umbrella table with the following options. So again, I've got umbrella selected down here. I'm going to say create, and kind of over here hiding in the weeds is report wizard. And again, if you get confused by that term wizard, wizard just kind of holds your hand as you walk through this. Always check to make sure that your source data is what you actually want, which in this case is the table called umbrella. And it says in number 12, include all fields from the umbrella table in the report. I'm just going to click on my two-headed arrow over there, drop that in there, and next. Do not include any grouping levels. Great. It says sort by customer ID, so I'm going to go up here and select customer ID in ascending or going up in order, customer ID. And again, here is another term here where, from your experience with Microsoft Excel, particularly Chapter 6, where we worked with tables, you're familiar with some of these terms, ascending, descending, when we talk about sorts. We want to have this in tabular form and in portrait orientation. And I'm going to call this umbrella report. Umbrella report as the name. Confirm that the report matches figure 2 and then close the report. Now understand, when they show you a figure of a report, it may be just a few of the records that are actually going to appear in your report and not necessarily the whole thing. So it says preview the report, click finish, and there's my report, which looks very much like figure 2 in my example. So I just created a simple report for my umbrella table. I'm going to close that out with the little X. In the navigation pane, that's this area over here, use umbrella data form to rename the umbrella form. So over here in my forms area for umbrella, I'm going to right click on umbrella and say rename, right click and rename. I was looking for that. Right click and rename. I'm going to call that umbrella data form and enter. And the last thing I want to do is compact and repair my database, file, and compact and repair. Now before I leave this, because it says in the instructions, close your database, I just want to show you something that I know students get confused about. Notice that, let's go to my documents folder where I have that saved. Notice that while currently I'm in this access file, notice that it looks like when I look at my documents folder, I have 2 copies of my file that I'm working on with _2 on the end. All right? But I'm going to widen this and notice that the first version of my file has first name _2. That's my Microsoft Access database. But there's this funny looking thing with a key next to it, first name _2. It's called Microsoft Access Record Locking Information, which means that Access has created a second file that's based on like my primary key data and sorting data. So it's kind of working in the background. This is just a temporary file that is open as long as my Access file is open. That's why it suggests that before you turn something in for grading, that you close your Access database. And again, because it's been saving all along, assuming you've saved all your objects and everything's good to go, when you close out Microsoft Access, it won't ask you to save because it already saved. And notice that now that I've closed out of my database file, that temporary record locking file disappeared, and I'm left with just my original database name _2 with all of my stuff in it. So that's something to be aware of, not to get confused by that secondary file opening. And that's why it's recommending that you always compact and repair your database and then close your database before you turn it in for grading. Now, if you get stuck in the middle and you're still working on the project and you're in the middle of the database, when you come back, just reopen it wherever you saved it at and continue working, and it will save your changes as you move along so that when you exit, it probably won't ask you to save anything, assuming you've saved as you've gone along. You've saved your tables, and every time it's asking you to save something or update it, you've responded to that. When you exit your database, it probably won't ask you to save, and you're just fine in doing that. So the saving logic, so to speak, in Access is different than what you're used to in, say, Microsoft Excel or Word, where you do a bunch of work, and then right as you exit, it asks you, oh, do you want to save your changes? Access doesn't do that. It saves as you go along. This is the end of this video. Please turn in your project for grading. And notice that when you get the project back, that you will see a grade report section. I think it's in your reports. It'll show up as a report on your objects list. That is where you find out how you did on your project. That's the feedback. And again, 90% or better, pass, fail. You still have 5 grading attempts, and just like before, you can use the feedback to make changes to your file and resubmit until you get 90%. Again, always only make changes to your original database file with the _2 on the end. Again, if you have any questions, please send me an email. However I can be of help, let me know. Thank you for listening.